Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the October 11th, 2023 regular monthly meeting of the Board of Selectmen. Item 1 on the agenda is the first Selectmen's remarks. Can you hear me in the back, by the way? Because sometimes the mic... Oh, I just got a... Is that better? Okay. Sorry. First, I must commend the Woodbridge Ad Hoc Committee on Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the well-attended Woodbridge Like Me Day event, which was held at the end of September at Amity High School. It was a fabulous event which brought residents together to celebrate the vibrant and diverse community we all share in Woodbridge. Many thanks to the DEI community co-chairs, Tahira Parvez and Ellen Skeletar, for all their efforts, and special kudos to Jennifer Sullivan, Assistant Library Director, for her help coordinating the event. Despite the very rainy conditions, the Recreation Department's annual road race was well attended, with 83 out of the 96 runners who signed up for the event running the course, including my daughter-in-law. This annual event supports the Resident Assistance Fund, coordinated by Human Services, and has benefited residents for 20 years. Congratulations to the Rec Department for that well-organized community event. We're very excited that the dedication and naming ceremony for the Karen A. Lombardi Woodbridge Regional Animal Shelter will be this Friday, October 13th at 1:30. It's down at the shelter, and we have invitations if anybody wants to grab one. Hope you'll all make it. I'm looking forward to this lovely event, honoring the contribution of a remarkable friend to our community and a friend of the animals here. Please make every effort to join us. If you do plan to come, just let Mrs. Shaw know so we can plan accordingly. Thanks must also be given to the Human Services Department, which has already run 3 vaccine clinics this season, providing over 250 vaccines to Woodbridge residents and town employees. The COVID-19 virus infection rate has been steadily rising again this fall. It is essential that our residents get vaccinated, especially those who are most vulnerable. The Human Services Department will hold 2 more vaccine clinics on October 20th and October 30th in the Center Building Gymnasium. Each clinic requires a call to Human Services to make an appointment. The clinic on October 20th will be for flu vaccine only, and the clinic on October 30th will have the COVID-19 booster, the RSV vaccine, Shingrix, and Prevnar 20, the new pneumonia vaccine, as well as regular and high-dose flu vaccines. I'm pleased to report that Governor Lamont has approved this year's list of municipalities receiving state grants for local projects. The grants are provided through the Small Town Economic Assistance Program, also known as STEEP. This year, we applied for and were granted $500,000 for the completion of the fire department's training and storage facility. This will provide adequate storage for all apparatus and fire department response items, which are currently being stored in the old firehouse, as well as creating a proper training facility to enhance public safety. It's very important to have all equipment necessary to the volunteers on one side of Center Road. Each year, the Woodbridge Volunteer Fire Association hosts the Truck or Treat event on Halloween, October 31st, at the firehouse. It's a fun, safe way for families to enjoy this festive holiday. We look forward to this wonderful evening and thank all the volunteers for their efforts on behalf of every Woodbridge resident. The biannual DEA Drug Take-Back Day will be held on October 28th from 10:30 to 1:30 at the Police Department entrance. This is a safe, convenient, and responsible way for prescription drug disposal. It should be noted that the Woodbridge Police Department does offer 24-hour access to safe drug disposal year-round. The Town of Woodbridge will present fair and affordable housing policies on October 30th, 6:30 p.m. at the JCC. This program is offered by the South Central Regional Council of Government, also known as SCROG, to all members of Woodbridge's commissions, committees, and town residents, as well as all land use officials. That's not the 6:30 tone. As a reminder, the municipal election will be held on Tuesday, November 7th. Absentee ballot applications are available now, I hope, and are available in the town clerk's office and also on our town website. Absentee ballots the applications are available and the ballots are now available and may be completed by mail or in person. Contact the town clerk's office at 203-389-3424 for more information. And I have one more reminder for your calendars. Please don't forget that Veterans Day will be commemorated on Friday, November 10th in the Center Building Gymnasium. This is always a beautiful event, and I invite you all to join us. And lastly, we were all reminded this past weekend of how fragile life is. The tragedy in Israel is not an isolated incident, but part of a world that is torn in many places by violence. I offer my prayers for the lives lost and for the people affected by violence in Israel. My heart also goes out to our Woodbridge residents with family in the region. A young gentleman stopped in this afternoon who's an Amity High School student, and they are sponsoring or having a community gathering tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. in the Brady Center. So that's just a public service announcement reminding everyone to please try to attend. And with that, I will move to item 2, Steep Grant Award, Fire Department Training and Storage Facility. We got the Steep Grant, and we need to approve a resolution. So, because I'm the one signing it, I need someone to make the motion that we do so. But I've got to read it. Can somebody, you want to read it? Somebody read it?
Sure.
Thank you.
Find it in the packet. I'll make a motion that First Selectman Beth Heller be and hereby is authorized to accept on behalf of the town of Woodbridge a 2023 Connecticut Steep Grant in the amount of $500,000 for fire department training and storage facility. And further resolved that the First Selectman Beth Heller hereby is authorized to enter into and execute any and all agreements, contracts, and documents necessary to obtain a 2023 steep grant with the state of Connecticut.
Is there a second? Thanks, Joe. Any discussion?
I have a question. Reading the letter here from the state of Connecticut. The total project cost of this is going to be $840,000. Is that, and that's just for the shed that we were talking about over behind the firehouse, correct?
Most of it has already been, that above the 500 has been spent. The fire department is contributing, Fire Association, 100,000. And above and beyond, we put a pad in there. And there's some excavating that has to be done additionally, which the town has already spent. Maybe, Tony, you can elaborate if there's anything else added to that.
No,
That's
pretty
it.
much
That's
it.
pretty
Right.
much it. We
And
had to
so-
match.
The steep award is $500,000. We have a municipal match of $180,000. And that will be in next year's budget?
No, it's
No,
already
that's
been
already
spent.
been spent.
That was,
Right.
that was
We-
spent.
That's what we already spent.
Right.
Just wanted to be clear on
Yeah.
what that was. And the other funding, is that the $160,000 listed there? Is that the fireman's contribution to this?
Fireman's contribution and a separate grant that we're working with them to get, that's the remaining 60.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand
Okay,
it.
sure.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you for that.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Item 3, Woodbridge Board of Education Superintendent Vonda Tenza, who came to see Beecher Road School Band play on Saturday at the DEI event. That was so nice.
I did. I was so excited to attend the Woodbridge About Me day. I really enjoyed it, and I did want to extend, my appreciation for everybody who came together as well. It was a wonderful event, and with all of that joy and excitement, I appreciate your remarks earlier. It's hard to understand and remember that there is a bigger picture in our world. And it's really an honor to be able to come together as a community and be a part of that community. So I thought it was outstanding. I appreciated it. Very joyful. Okay, I just have a few notes to share with you tonight. So I feel like I'm constantly saying we're growing and we're growing. So officially we are at 885 students, which is up a few from last month. October 1st is our official benchmark for attendance. So when we work with the state of Connecticut and any state reporting, we use our October 1st data. So 885 is the number that we will be working with, whether it goes up or down. That's what's reported for grant purposes and all kinds of state reports that we complete. When I look back at last October 1st, our reporting was 845, so it's 40 more than last October 1st. So there is that. I do want to update the Board of Selectmen on the progress that the ad hoc committee is making regarding our space utilization and size issues. So we were put in touch with a consulting group, Construction Solutions Group. Actually, Patty McKeon, who's here this evening, was on our ad hoc committee and was instrumental at least making an initial connection, which we thought was very helpful. And we did meet with somebody from that organization. They came, they gave us a proposal of phases that we could, maybe dip into for support along the way. It was kind of like a menu of options. We talked to Tony a little bit about it. We started to talk to our board about it, and the president is going to come talk to our board Monday evening to answer some questions to see if there's a possible way for us to work with this group to get some of that work done. And by work, I mean, I think it's very important that we ask the right questions to get the right information. And I'm a really talented educator. I'm not your best RFQ designer. I don't know the right questions to ask to figure out what we really need. Maybe we can do it with the space we have. Maybe we can move malls. Maybe we can go taller. So we are looking for some help in at least the RFQ, RFP process. So we're keeping you updated. We are determined to make some movement on that as we're watching ourselves grow, and we feel that sense of urgency only overshadowed by our sense of urgency to provide the best education. So, again, in partnership, we met with the Recreation Department, John DeMeo and John Adamovich this week, as we, learn that the pool is maybe becoming closer and closer to opening. We're gonna have even more overlapping of community and school at the same time at parts of the day. So we wanted to meet and make sure we had some strong communication and understood safety protocols. And, John DeMeo was very responsive, and they were very supportive of hearing our safety protocols and what we expect. And they've already made some changes as soon as yesterday, actually, to support safety of everybody. So I thought that was a celebration. Another celebration, I did attend the Living Treasure celebration, and I know it was a while ago, but Joe Crisco and Lynn Piazzik were recognized, and it was amazing to learn more about Joe that I did not know, and it's, just a wonderful thing to have a community that celebrates that. Just to keep you posted, we're starting our budget process. We're living our current budget and starting to plan for next year. We sent some initial worksheets out to our departments, and we will start looking at that information during the month of October and early November. And we also revisited a capital budget planning document that had been created, and we reviewed that with our finance committee, I believe, night before, and we'll share that with facilities as well. So, and then just if you haven't heard, our Halloween hoot is this weekend, and perhaps you could consider Saturday if it's not raining. I know that's a big hope.
Good luck.
But
Every
Sunday if it
It's
rains.
crazy, every weekend, yeah.
Is it next weekend? Next weekend. That's right, it is next weekend. Yes,
Oh,
next
gosh.
weekend. Thank you so much.
Anyone have any questions or comments for Fonda?
Yeah, at 885, what, do you have a tentative projection for next year? And the second part of the question is, in our DERG or in our region, whatever, maybe that's too deep into the into the terms. Are the other schools experiencing this kind of growth? Because I think you've mentioned to us before that we're kind of unique. And I
We
just
are
wanted to-
unique in that, so two things. Very few districts are experiencing the growth that our town here is experiencing. So that is a credit to our community here. So that's wonderful. Very few districts also have an elementary school that is such a big footprint, physically, surface area, and size-wise with enrollment. So we couldn't really ask an elementary school for an RFQ because nobody's resembles what we have.
Right.
So our projected enrollment, I don't remember the exact number. It is more than we have now, but we're already past our projection for this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, moving along, item 4 on the agenda is the Darling House tenants lease, and action is appropriate. You have it in your packet. We have the updated Darling House lease and pet authorization. I think they have a cat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for the caretakers. It was approved by the Historical Society Board, on September 23rd, and we have it in our packet. This will be effective 11/1, so there's some updates, which I could read out loud, but they're pretty much minor. And Jerry, you,
This is the same lease that's been in effect for the last year with the same tenants. And as you see, there's just 3 changes. Dates have been changed to reflect the next coming year. Our Section 9 has been changed, and there's been an increase in the water bill limit. 3 minor changes to the lease.
okay, anyone have any, well, I'll make a motion that we approve it. Is there a second? Any comments or questions on this? We all had a chance to look it over? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Item 5 on the agenda is our Coop-Up Kids gang are joining us. And I will introduce the chair of the commission, Nicole Donzello. And then I'll let you introduce the folks that are here, and I think you have a very brief presentation on some really good work you guys have been doing.
Sure.
So,
My
thank you.
commission, I'm proud to say in its entirety are present, and I will defer to them to introduce themselves. Hi, my name is Allison Balsamas. And over there is Javier Aviles, who is
Howdy.
our tech guy.
Everybody needs one of those.
Everybody needs one,
Yeah.
it certainly isn't me.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for this opportunity to present this evening. I will keep it brief. I know you have a lot on your agenda. As you're aware from our last update to the Board of Selectmen, we did complete and updated the list of publicly owned properties. Every property was reviewed. We actually went through every single publicly owned property, reviewed the deeds associated with those properties, as well as the property cards, to ensure that all properties were properly classified. For those of you who are not familiar, there are 4 classifications that are listed in our charge, which I'm willing to let you know if you want to hear them. If not, everyone can review the charge. There were some changes in classifications based on the 4 categories within our charge, and I did provide a list of our completed list of all 4 categories to all the members of the Board of Selectmen, and you can see those changes are highlighted in yellow. So since we have, and that's one of our duties as Coop-Up is to classify all these properties, we then moved on to a second duty, which is to study the usages of all of these properties from time to time, and study and recommend to the Board of Selectmen any changes in those uses. And so in order to look at that, what we started to do is looking at category 3, and looked at properties that had no restrictions on them. And I was surprised to see that we, as a town, own over 48 properties with no restrictions on them. And I did provide that list. An updated list was just distributed. I apologize. Sometimes when you're trying to cut and paste out of Google, it doesn't always place all the properties, and I reviewed it today. And the properties, there's 6 properties that were not on the original sheet that was sent out to all of you. I did provide the new one, and I placed them on the bottom of the list so that you can see the ones that were missed. I then asked Allison and Javier to place these properties on a map so you can see and get an idea of the amount of unrestricted properties that the town of Woodbridge currently owns. Based on this list, we will be reviewing those properties one by one, have started that process in order for us to develop a recommendation for the Board of Selectmen if there's any changes in usage that the commission votes on. Okay. So we have provided that map behind you if you would like to review it. It does correspond with the list that we provided, and a link to this map was also provided, I believe via email to all the Board of Selectmen members. If not, I'll be happy to send it to all of you to review.
Just as a bit of context, I apologize for the clutter on here. We're dealing with the huge coup-up budget of zero, so we gotta make do with what we've got. But the blue dots that you see are the properties on the list. The pink and the orange and everything else is stuff that Google puts on there as part of their map process. But
We have
the
to
blue
know
is
where
what you wanna
McDonald's
focus on.
is, of course, you know. There's a McDonald's, we have to know where that is. I know.
There's a bunny
Really?
village.
It's key.
I think we did pretty good with our budget at
Yeah.
zero, so
So-
everybody can get an idea of
This
where
is,
the
this is
properties are
easy, this is
located.
easier to read than this in my old eyes, you know.
Right.
So did I understand that the original piece that we saw in our packet was just everything that the town owns? Or
Well,
it's a
you
large list, and this one is the unrestricted
correct.
pieces of that?
Yes, correct.
So some of these, or many of these have specific wetlands restrictions or something like that on.
Right.
where these don't?
Correct.
Okay.
And actually, I'll go through the 4 categories just so that,
Oh, okay.
to give a context. So category 1 are lands and buildings dedicated to open space or other use under terms of grant and aid conditions, okay? So yes, those are restricted properties. Category 2 are properties that are under the direction of existing commissions or agencies in town. So that's category 2. And category 3 are properties or buildings that we own, uses of which are not under the direction of any existing commissions or agencies in town. And then category 4, which we actually most recently looked at a property, which was 7 Forest Road, I believe, which was the utility property. Those are properties that the town has the right of first refusal on. So those are the 4 categories. And so obviously, when we're reviewing usage of town-owned property, we're limited to category 3. And even under category 3, there are some properties that do have restrictions if you review the large list, which I do know the font is rather small. I need to use a magnifying glass myself. But the good news is this entire list is on our website, and we can make it as big as we want to read it. And there are links to the actual property deeds as well as the property cards. We wanted to include as much information as possible, and we also have included providing a column if there's any restrictions and what those restrictions are. So it's very informational based. We wanted to give as much information to the town as possible so that all the commissions, committees, agencies, Board of Selectmen can review it.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions on this?
So recommendations will come at some point. We are
Okay.
working on it,
Thank you
so.
very much.
Great.
This is really fabulous, by the way.
Very
Thank
good.
you. A lot of good
Yeah.
work
Thank you, that
done.
looks like a lot of work.
It was
Yeah,
a lot of work.
really,
It
I
was
can
a lot of work
imagine.
reviewing every property. We wanted to make sure we got it right. So
Well
and
done.
including some
Very well
information,
done.
so.
I did have one quick question, and
Sure.
first I want to say thank you, because this is great information, and I'm
thank
sure
you.
it took a lot of effort to put it together. So I had one question about restrictions, and I don't know if anyone knows the answer, but maybe it's something we can look into. I think I remember reading somewhere that if land was acquired by the town because someone defaulted on taxes, that there is some sort of stipulation that it can't then be sold for less than what the taxes were owed. But I don't remember if that was in the charter or, so it's just something that I wonder if someone
Okay.
could look up for us, because
Yeah.
it's a vague recollection and I can't
Sure.
pinpoint where it comes from, but I think.
There are a few ordinances that they
Right.
cover it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
Yeah.
to answer your question,
Foreclosure, yeah.
as we review the properties under category 3, the unrestricted that are on this list, that's one of the issues that we will be looking at as well. So
Good.
that when we're making the recommendation again, I would like to have as many facts as possible to make your job easier so that you have as much information to make the decisions. So that will certainly be one of them, as will wetlands, properties, things of that nature. So that's hopefully something that will be in there for you. So.
Great, thank you.
Great.
Okay, you're welcome.
Anything else? Well, thank you for the
Thank you.
commission members as well for joining us this evening. Very helpful. Thank you. Okay. Next item is the public hearing, which we cannot do until 6 o'clock, nor public comments, so we will go to number 8, which is the award of farmland leases for the 2024 growing season. These almost look like the same we've always had, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, can we do this? I forget, we can do them all at once, right? Sure. Okay. Do I need to read them? Anybody need me to read them? Since they're always from the same, okay, cool. So I will make a motion that we approve the summary that's in our packet for the 2024 growing season. Unless otherwise notified, the hay harvested is existing growth, and this list was compiled by Jerry Shaw on September 27, 2023. So I'll make a motion that we award them all as written. Is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on any of them? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Item 9 is sign the call of the local election for November 7th, 2023. Mrs. Shaw passes around and we all get to sign our name.
We need a motion to approve, or we're just signing it?
I don't remember a motion ever. I think we just sign it, right? We don't have to motion. Do we have to, Jerry, sign motion? No?
You know, you can make a motion to call a local election for November 7th. In other words, I can just use that as the motion.
Yes, you can do
Somebody
that.
wants to make the motion.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Okay. I'll second it.
Okay?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll sign away while that's circulating. Move on to item 10, which is the Administrative Office Director of Finance. All the titles you have, my friend.
Okay. Thank you.
The esteemed Anthony Genovese.
Thank you. I have a monthly report for the first quarter of the fiscal year, and that report is a budget surplus of $551,000. Because we have an allocation from fund balance of $800,000, that leaves a projected decrease in our fund balance at the end of the year of just about $250,000, which leaves us at 15.5% of our annual expenditures for our fund balance. That's down from your last projection for a few reasons. The first is we've increased our fund balance allocation in our budget from $400,000 to $800,000. Secondly, we increased our expenditures this year from 53 to 55, almost 56 million. So when you have percentage, when the bottom number increases, it decreases the percentage. So, and second, lastly, the fund balance reduction is $250,000 for the current year. I will say that 15.5% is slightly above our policy. So that's something that the board, Selectmen and Finance should review when they review the budget, as they do every year, so our fund balance level. Two things to bring of note early in the year. In July of 2023, the state finally restructured the municipal employee retirement system. This was after we set our budget, and all of our employees are members of that system. And so our town rate for town employees decreased from 19.57 to 15.85, and police from 25.69 to 21.72. You'll notice it's considerably more for a police employee than a town employee. So at the moment, it's a projected $100,000 in retirement cost savings. The second item is the Amity Regional School District has reported an estimate of $451,000 surplus for the town of Woodbridge in their operations from 2023. So if this survives through their audit, which most likely it will, then they will reduce our March payment by that amount. So last year in the budget process, because the way we received the surplus changed, we increased the fund balance projection from 400 to 800 in acknowledgement that we would be receiving the surplus funds throughout the year. As you can see, this year the surplus is 450,000. So that's actually slightly more than we increased our fund balance. So
Tony, just a quick question. That's after the 2% was set aside into capital non-recurring?
I'm assuming because I asked, my question to them was how much you're gonna be returning to us,
Right.
and that's the number I was given, so yes, that's after, I'm
So
assuming that's
another
after.
2% went into capital non-recurring, and they still had that amount. Well, I'm glad we're getting it then.
Yeah,
Yep.
so those are the highlights for the, first quarter of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody
Okay.
have any questions for Tony on that? Okey-doke. Next is funding request. Oop,
How's the
sorry.
winter gonna, are we gonna have a good winter? Have you looked into the Farmer's Almanac to tell us whether or not we're gonna have to dig into
I
that?
tell you, I'm saving for a bad winter. How about that?
That sounds like a prudent course.
Yeah. Last was great.
That's not good.
Okay, the next item B is funding requests. You have in your packet the first one. I'll move acceptance of line item transfer number 2324-07. Request to cover deficit in insurance premiums mainly due to an increase in auto, property, and liability insurance. Funds will come from the workers' compensation where the town experienced some savings this year. Is there a second? Thank you. Maybe, is there something you need to elaborate on this? This is definitely a line item transfer,
It's a line item
which we like.
transfer, correct, and we have to estimate when we do the budget what our insurance premiums will be. We typically don't, get our final, numbers until June, end of June. So, we were pretty close, but we were a little low on property liability and auto, and we had a little surplus in workers' comp. So they sort of balanced each other out.
Great. Good. Anyone have any questions on this? We have a motion and a second, right? Okay, all in favor? Aye, thank you very much. Next item is another line item transfer. I'll move the acceptance of line item transfer number 2324-08 in the amount of $60,000. This is for the renovation of the existing Woodbridge Emergency Dispatch Unit, which anyone who has been over there knows why it is so necessary. And the scope of the work includes demolition, removal of existing finishes, partitions, etc. It's listed in your packet. It will have a new finished ceiling, flooring, fixtures, and partitions. It will be finally a nice place for these poor people to work, and it's really awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
it's terrible,
And again,
environment.
right, and so I moved acceptance. Is there a second on that one? Thank you. And we had previously appropriated $151,200 for this project, and the project is attached to the disposition. So it's coming out of some cancellation of purchase orders that were
Correct.
not used.
Right.
And a total of $60,000. So we have a motion and a second. Any questions for Tony on this?
I guess the only question would be, are we at all moving forward with with this dispatch possibility of coordination with other, a regional dispatch thing, or do you know if that's happening?
Maybe
I think
Paul
Paul could probably speak to
speak to
that.
that. He's
That's
on the
certain-
dispatch committee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's certainly a possibility, and that's something we want to explore very aggressively. However, in order to facilitate other towns coming in and offloading their dispatch centers to us, we need to have a facility that is workable, that is comfortable to work in for our dispatchers to be to find acceptable.
Is
to
it
work
snowing in here or something? It sounds like a
It's
blizzard.
just, I think his mic is just, yeah,
I think that was me. But anyway,
yeah.
in order to facilitate that, we need to have a facility that they can come to work to every day and not be grossed out for 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm-
So this is the first step in that
Got it,
direction.
got it.
So,
And I understood that part. I just wondered where we were in sort of planning for that. Thank you.
well, certainly
good
we're
answer.
planning, but we need to take certain steps before the
Yeah.
plan can be put attached. And this is the first step.
Great. Anything else? We do a
No, that
motion and a
was it.
second on that? Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board? All in favor? Great. I'm glad this is going to get going. It's wonderful. Okay, next. Is that it for funding requests?
No, there's one more. No, I think that's it. I'm sorry. Yeah, that's it.
I'm easily distracted
Yeah,
here
no,
with
that's
this
it.
book,
That's it.
so keep me honest
Yeah,
here.
that's
Thank
it.
you. Okay, next we have bids. And the first one is review and action as appropriate. In order to begin the work across the street on the fire training and storage facility, we are required to complete the second part of the foundation. And we thought it was, when we were talking about it, I know a couple months ago, we thought it would be about $60,000. Well, when you bid something out, apparently it comes back 3 times what you estimated. So it was sent out. There were 2 bids, one from Layden Industries of $159,800, and then Olympus Construction came in at $314,450. So it's a recommendation from our finance director that
From our architect.
from our architect, sorry.
Oh.
After reviewing the architect's recommendations and submitted bids, Tony would like to recommend the town award the bid to Layden Industries of New Haven with a low bid of $159,800. So I will make a motion that we do that. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe. Any comments or questions on this one? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And now, what do we got, the dispense renovation?
Yep, now it's the renovations. I
Right,
just
gotcha.
mentioned.
The
Right.
actual bid, correct, to do
Correct,
the work?
correct.
Okay. So you have in your packet a memo from Tony Genovese again. You write a lot of memos for this stuff, don't
Right.
you? Again, it was bid out, and there were 2 bids. Olympus Construction came in at $114,200, and Pat Munger Construction came in at $124,580. So, this is to do the actual work that I just described in the earlier vote, and I'll move acceptance of the bid, approval, to award the bid to Olympus Construction of Milford with the low bid of $114,200. Is there a second? Somebody out there? Thanks, good to know. Any other comments or questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. And it's not yet 6 o'clock, so we will keep moving. You have in your packet our Assistant Administrative Officer's report. Karen could not be here tonight. She had a family matter. Everything's fine, but she couldn't, so it's in the packet and for your perusal. If you have any questions, you can call her tomorrow. Next is the consent agenda and action as appropriate. You have in your packet items A through G. And I just want to note that the Girl Scout Troop sale of cookies on Election Day, as well as the Amity Mock Trial Club, written by Ethan DeCure for a bake sale on Election Day, were both approved by the registrars of voters. So with that, I will motion acceptance of the consent agenda as listed in your packet. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor? Oh, sure.
I'd
Sorry.
just like, I would prefer on the minutes, I understand that, just looking at the motions that we made, I would rather see the whole motion spelled out, instead of.
Which one?
Article 9, the tax abatement one, it does speak to exactly what we intended to do, but I would just rather have the text of the actual motion in there. I think that makes
Everybody okay with that?
makes a better record.
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so we'll make that amendment
Thank you.
to the minutes. Okay, any other changes from items A through G? Hearing none. Do we motion? Do we motion it, Jerry?
We did.
We did, we motioned it and seconded it?
Yes, we
Okay,
did.
thank you. All in favor? Okay, with David's amendment to the minutes. Thank you. Okay, item 13 on the agenda, we had a resignation from the Fire Commission, and my understanding is that they have been unsuccessful because they have a person not available that, because originally we weren't going to try to do any more appointments. However, they have been unable to get a quorum, so we decided to go ahead. Our Fire Commission Chairman is here in the audience, Karen Kravitz. So we have someone whose appointment will be up within 2.5 months of his appointment, but we have someone who's agreed to accept that, knowing that he may be gone in 2.5 months. So with that, I'll look for appointments to the Fire Commission slot that's open till December 31st, 2023. Are there any nominees?
I'll make a motion to approve Richard Larico Jr.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe. Any other nominations?
Well, I would have a nomination, but I only heard about this on Friday, which didn't really give our nomination committee an opportunity. But given that I haven't had anyone appointed to any commission this year anyway, I don't think it would make a difference in the outcome. I do wish that, this is a Republican candidate. I wish that we'd had better notice. Since it was June that this person resigned, and I found out about it on
We
Friday.
didn't even know that he
We
resigned.
didn't know it until Friday.
Yep.
We didn't know it.
No,
We
he,
didn't know.
I know,
Right.
but the commission must have known it.
Yes.
And isn't Stephanie Chirliglio, our town clerk, the secretary
it
to that
didn't
commission?
go to her. I think, who did it go to? He sent it to.
It went to Sean and Karen Kravitz, and their secretary put it in the file.
Okay,
Interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I just wish that we had
understood.
better clarity on how these things are supposed to work, because, that this is extremely unusual to appoint somebody for a month and a half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just so that they can have a quorum. Karen called and was really desperate to have a
I have
quorum.
noticed that they've canceled 7
Yeah,
meetings this year, so
exactly.
that's kind of
Yeah.
a,
Heads up there.
doing very well on
Yeah.
the meetings.
So hopefully this will
I-
get you on your way for the next couple of months. Okay.
Parenthetically, perhaps some of the people that I suggested and nominated for that commission would have actually been able to be there, and we wouldn't have had that problem, but I'm ready to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you with that. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. You have someone now, can move forward. Great, okay. Welcome, okay. And next, boy, we're gonna be all ready for we're almost done with the agenda, believe it or not. But we've got Jerry Weiner coming up. Next on our agenda is the town council's report, and I will call on Attorney Gerald Weiner.
So
to
as you
head
know, there was a complaint on November 18th filed by David Lober against Gerald Weiner, town
I
attorney.
think you gotta get into the mic, sorry.
Complaint filed on November 18th by David Lober against Gerald Weiner, town attorney, Beth Heller, first selectman, for filing a fraudulent agenda in violation of the Connecticut Open Meeting Law. That complaint was filed with the Freedom of Information Commission. The town, after discussion with the Board of Selectmen about the complaint, felt that it would be appropriate to hire outside counsel to represent us, since there were 3 defendants, the town of Woodbridge, myself, and Beth. So we hired Nick Bamonte of the firm of Bertram and Moses, who represented us. The town has paid about $6,200, $6,300 in counsel fees so far. I expect there'll be another bill coming pretty soon. And we received a decision we had a hearing before the hearing examiner about 2 weeks ago on the complaint. I appeared with our attorney. I testified. David Lober appeared. He testified and presented his case. David Vogel was present for moral support but didn't testify. We received a decision from the Freedom of Information Commission hearing examiner dated September 18, 2023, and I'm very happy to report that all charges and allegations and complaints were dismissed by the hearing examiner. And the way Freedom of Information procedures are is that and I sent a copy of the decision to all the members of the board. This decision by the hearing examiner is subject to approval or disapproval by the entire Freedom of Information Commission. Coincidentally, there was a hearing scheduled for today at 2:00 before the commission to consider the hearing examiner's findings and determine whether it should be adopted or not adopted. My experience and the experience of our attorney, it was that 99, 95, whatever the number is, percent of the recommendations by the hearing examiners are usually approved by the commission. And our attorney was going to go up this afternoon, but I had him call David Lober to find out whether he was going to appear. If he wasn't going to appear, it saved us a few dollars on counsel fees, as our attorney wasn't required to appear unless the complainant appeared. Turns out the complainant said that he would not appear, so we assume that the commission at 2 o'clock today adopted these findings. It's indeed unfortunate the town had to spend $6,200. You know, the big concerning factor for me, and I think for Beth, is that there was an allegation that there was a fraudulent agenda filed by me and Beth, and that's something we will have to consider on our own as to whether there is anything that should be done about that. I was not happy to see that word in there. Of course, it wasn't fraudulent, and of course, the hearing examiner said everything we did, the notice we filed, was appropriate, and the complaint was dismissed pretty quickly. So with that, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Okay.
I'd just like to make a statement that it's very difficult to present a case when the information that needs to be presented is protected by executive privilege. So that sort of confounded my presentation. Nevertheless, the commission made a decision, and I'm not going to dispute it.
There was no executive privilege. It was an executive session.
Executive
An
session.
executive session.
Right. Executive session.
When the complaint was filed, the person filing the complaint knew it was pursuant to an executive session and knew or should have known that any information discussed in an executive session is not to be made public. That's the purpose of executive sessions. Yes, and it was unfortunate. It was unfortunate we had to pay $6,200 to defend this, and it's unfortunate that there was an allegation of fraud made in the complaint. So all around, it was not a good situation. But that's the end of that for now. The next issue that I have on the agenda is the Open Communities lawsuit against the town. Not a lot has happened. About 3 or 4 days ago, I received something from our attorneys indicating that they filed objections to a very extensive disclosure and request for production that was filed against the town, in excess of 50 questions and requests to produce documents. We filed an objection to those requests. We think they were overbroad and inappropriate, and the court will make a decision on what we have to answer, if anything. Hopefully, it will be narrowed down significantly, so the effort to get those responses will be less severe than they could be. But we don't know what the court is going to do. Other than that, there has been no movement on the case. I told you last time, or at one of our meetings, that we have filed an extensive discovery request against the plaintiffs, asking them to produce significant amounts of documents, answer significant amounts of questions. So far as I know, they haven't filed objections. We expect them to file an objection to our request the same way we filed an objection to their request. So we're just going through the procedures now, and again, anything comes up, I'll let you know. That's about it for that case.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Jerry on any of this? Okay, thank you. We have to wait, and we are finished with our agenda, but we have to wait until 6 o'clock for a public hearing. So you can talk amongst yourselves for a little while.
Have some water.
Have some water. And just... Thank you. Good evening. We've gone back to the agenda, item number 6. Yes, the public hearing, where we will receive comments on proposed amendments to the town ordinances with action as appropriate. In accordance with Section 4-5B1 of the Charter of the Town of Woodbridge, I now call this public hearing to order to receive comments regarding the proposed revisions to the Town of Woodbridge's ordinances, and we will take them one at a time. The legal notice was published in the Woodbridge Town News edition of Friday, September 29, 2023, and there is a copy of that in your packets. Is there a motion first to waive the reading of the legal notice?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
To waive the reading of the notice. Thank you. It's
Please.
unanimous. Thank you. Ooh, scared me. I didn't want to read it. First, we will consider the proposal to repeal Section C of Article 3 entitled Fire Commission 75-22 Duties and Powers. And our Ordinance Committee Chair, Sheila McCrevin, will explain the Fire Commission request to repeal this section of this ordinance.
Yes, so as we discussed at the September Board of Selectmen meeting, we received the request to just cross out a line from this so that the the evaluation of the performance of the fire marshal is no longer required to be done by the Fire Commission, it's going to be done in a separate process. That is that change.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I will now ask if any of the members of the public, just on this ordinance, we're going to do them all separately, if the public has any comments regarding the proposed amendment to the ordinance, I would ask you to come to the microphone here, state your name and your address, and then have your piece.
And that you're just talking about Article
The first one.
3.
Right.
Article 3.
Okay.
Article 3,
They may not have that in front of
Section
them,
C of
so I think
Article
you have
3,
to tell
but
them
I
what
read what it was.
Yep. Fire Commission 7522 Duties and Powers.
Okay, which is what I read. And then Sheila explained. Anyone commenting on that one? Sure. Sure.
Amy Morella, 184 Raymond Road. A question, Sheila, you said that the Fire Commission requested this. Did it go to the Ordinance Committee, which exists?
Yes.
When did that happen?
Beginning of September, prior to the Board of Selectmen meeting in September, and it might have been August 31st.
Okay.
think it was
Okay,
the
you
31st.
left that out, so I was confused about the process, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Now I will ask the clerk if she has received any additional comments.
No,
As of 3 p.m. today, at the cutoff? Thank you. Okay, and now it's okay to call the question, to vote, correct? All right, I will move acceptance of this. All in favor?
Do we have a second for that?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
A
that.
second.
We're motioning to approve this change to the
Article.
ordinances, the
As
article.
published.
Section C of the Article 3, Fire Commission 75-22 Duties and Powers. It's been motioned and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And there's a process that happens after each one of those. What happens? It goes to the,
Gets published and
get
it's
published.
effective 30 days from publication.
right, okay.
you don't become effective for 30 days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next we're going to consider the proposed amendments to Article 9, tax abatement for fire department personnel, and I will again turn to Sheila, Chairman, to discuss this one.
Okay, so I'll make sure to explain the context. We did receive and discuss at the Ordinance Committee, and I believe it was August 31st. We had a discussion about the changes that are proposed here. So this has to do with the tax abatement for fire department personnel. Our understanding is this is and we discussed at the Ordinance Committee and again at the Board of Selectmen, that this pertains to a limited number of personnel, and it is a way to incentivize, it's a way to help with attracting and retaining the services in our volunteer fire department, which we discussed was very important, that we continue to have a volunteer fire department, and we thought that in keeping with the state statute that has changed and allowed a larger dollar amount, that we should also keep pace with that. It's the right thing to do, it's an appropriate time to do it, and we had a discussion both at ordinance, we motioned to bring it to the full Board of Selectmen, and at our September Board of Selectmen meeting, we had further discussion, sent it out to public hearing, and here we are tonight.
Thank you. And with that, I will ask the public to come forward again, state your name and your address, and regarding comments regarding the proposed amendments to this ordinance.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Thomas Wheel, living at 70 Woodfield Road, and I'd like to address appropriately the pending issue of providing additional tax relief to the volunteer firemen in the Woodbridge Fire Department. Let me start by making it very clear I'm not here to oppose such relief. Just this last May, I had a self-cleaning oven fire and was grateful and appreciative of the prompt and effective assistance I got from the fire department. They were terrific, and I think that some additional tax relief for those volunteers may well be worthy of consideration. But I think it would be inadvisable and premature to approve the awarding of such relief at this time for a couple of reasons. First, please correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard some discussion of some of the consideration that's been given to this internally, but I'm not aware that this body's given enough thought to at least two elements that should be weighed in deciding upon whether the requested relief should be granted. The relief being sought will reduce town revenues, and any reduction in revenues, especially one that would undoubtedly be permanent, should not be approved without due deliberation. And in the interest of equity, prior to settling on this particular request as a standalone matter, this council should also consider whether there's any other Woodbridge group that might also warrant some tax relief, and then make decisions about the terms of such relief that would be fair to all potential relief applicants and to the taxpayers of Woodbridge. An issue of this nature also deserves to be fleshed out and presented to the citizens of Woodbridge to allow them the opportunity of notice and comment based on a thorough evaluation of the various equities at stake. I understand that there was an opportunity to do exactly what I'm doing, but I don't have a sense of the breadth of consideration that you've given to this matter heretofore. That's not been done, and any decision can only be valid when the various points of view have been explored by the council and shared with the electorate. Second, and perhaps more important, while I'm not suggesting any inappropriate motivations for the manner in which this matter is being brought up at this point, there's certainly the appearance of potential impropriety in the dangling by the majority party before a selected segment of the electorate of the prospect of financial reward just prior to an election. The mere appearance of wrongdoing, of vote buying, could unnecessarily foment distrust in the integrity of November's voting. No one should want that, and the solution is an easy one. The council is unlikely to have completed the due diligence completed above and to have gathered informed public comment on these issues by early November anyway. So, to also avoid the appearance of impropriety, does it not make sense to defer action on this matter until after the election? I believe so. And if there is then also the opportunity to commend the volunteers of the Woodbridge Fire Department for their excellent service, please count me in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, First Selectmen, members of the board, Attorney Weiner, Administrative Officer Genovese, and Mrs. Shaw.
Could you just speak up a little bit?
Yes, I'm sorry. My name is Ellen Scalatar. I live
Thanks.
at 1265 Racebrook Road. I don't know anything about the timing of this ordinance, ordinance change and how it came about. I know from my experience as First Selectman, things come up at all different times, and I do trust this board to take up matters in a timely manner as they come before them. I am here to support the tax abatement change for our Woodbridge volunteer firefighters. I think it's really important to always remind ourselves that these men and women are volunteers who devote countless hours to keeping us safe, even at the risk of their own personal safety. So first, I'd like to say, in my personal capacity as a resident of Woodbridge, I was involved in an automobile accident. It was not my fault. Somebody hit me from behind, and the firefighters were there in an instant. They were reassuring, they were competent, and to this day, I think of how important that was to me at that very, very difficult moment, and I'm very grateful to them. I'm also here in my capacity as a grandmother. My granddaughter was visiting, and I needed a car seat in my car. Thought I could do it myself, but of course I couldn't. I called the chief, and he was not available, but the deputy chief met me on the weekend at the firehouse to put in the car seat, checked the car seat for me, and told me it had been recalled, so I didn't even have a good car seat, and they were part of a program with car seats, gave me a free one and installed it for me, so helped to protect my grandchildren. As a Woodbridge taxpayer, I very much appreciate having a volunteer fire department. I know in surrounding communities, firefighters are very well paid, and I totally support that. I think they should be. It's a tribute to the kind of work they do, and I think to the extent that we have volunteers, it just points out what the benefits are to our town. I would also say, in my capacity as a former first selectman, I received many communications from residents in town praising the work of our fire department, both in automobile accidents and home fires, and that was sort of a continuing theme throughout my time there. I am also here in my capacity as chair of the Woodbridge Democratic Town Committee to support this, and I would say on behalf of Mika Cardozo, who is our candidate, he was otherwise occupied this evening and wanted to be here, and he joins me in my support of this change in the ordinance. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening.
Thank you.
Amy Morella, 184 Rimmon Road. I guess it's the evening for former First Selectman. I had the honor
I'll be joining you shortly.
Yes, I had the honor of
Had
serving
to get that out there.
before Ellen did, and indeed it is an honor and a duty, as I know for all of you. Beth, you actually raised exactly the reason I'm here. You yourself wrote recently that this board would not take up the RFPs that had been solicited for the country club, the proposals, precisely because this board is changing over with 4 seats changing, potentially more, because the 4 people are not running and the 2 other people are running for office. And not everybody gets on who runs. So this is an unusual time to be taking action, and I thought it was prudent of you to, as a board, to decide not to act on the RFP. To me, the same logic applies here, and that has nothing to do with the merits of the firefighters. Indeed, we all know that just from inflation alone, we're all hit hard in our pocketbooks, and I think some increase is necessary in order to acknowledge that 250 does not go where it used to go. I also think 250 is too small a number, which is what it was. But what's being proposed here is an increase of, and I need Tony's help to figure this out, is it 400%, 500%? I mean, it's a heck of a lot of percent increase. Particularly when you have the Democratic Town Committee actually making this a political issue by appearing and publicly making statements, I think that it is inappropriate to act right before Election Day. I think there's ample time, given that our budget is made, and tax abatements would go into effect as of July 1st, for the new Board of Selectmen to take this up, and I hope they will be in favor of an increase. But I think the timing of this is inappropriate. So I hope for the sake of everybody involved, we can get past this election, and then this very important issue can be taken up, and indeed there can be a robust increase for our firefighters. And that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once, going twice? Okay. Thank you. Now I will ask the clerk if she's received any additional comments as of 3 p.m. today on this.
No, I have not.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else that the board would like to say? Okay. I will motion the approval we'll consider the proposed amendments to Article 9, tax abatement for the fire department personnel. All in favor?
No, I think we need a motion to that effect, and I would like to speak to the motion. I don't want to speak to the public section.
I'll be happy to make it as a motion, sure.
Well, you're asking for us to vote. We don't have a motion or a second.
All right, I just said I'll make a
That's
motion.
the motion.
I will make a motion.
Second.
Okay.
I would like to move to table the issue, and I would like to table it until the January meeting of the newly elected Board of Selectmen. And if I have a second, I will explain my reasoning behind it. If no one seconds it. Thank you.
Okay, so you're motioning to table the.
The motion is to table your motion that you just
Okay,
made
all right.
until,
So we have to vote on
until
that.
after the first of the
So
year.
we have to vote on that first.
We
Okay.
will, but I get to explain why I'm saying this.
Okay.
The table is a non-debatable motion, but I'm not sure, so, but go ahead. I don't think we're gonna.
Sure.
The motion to table can be discussed.
Yeah, look, I think it's non-debatable, but discuss, you can go.
Okay, well,
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
thank you. In making that motion, we have, as a board, frequently avoided transgressions that have financial implications for future years and deferred them in a couple of cases with the Historical Society and with the Agricultural Commission because we couldn't cross budget years with things. This is different because it's an ordinance, but it has even more impact because it becomes permanent. And I think that I'm only wishing that we table this on the same merits, not really the merits of the issue, but on the technical issue of when we are considering it. It does seem to me that the only deadline here that we're looking at is our expiration as board members and the November 7th election. I certainly agree with Mr. Wheel's assessment that it does not look good, and I don't want to be a party to something that I consider to be sketchy. And furthermore, it has been made a political issue through the public hearing and the statement by your party's chairman. I think that makes it very transparent that there's a huge political component to this that could simply be avoided because I have not heard any reason that delaying it makes any difference whatsoever, when it would be very possible for the future board to act on the merits. And I think that probably you all agree with me. Those of you who are retiring from this board have no reason not to support the concept of taking it up when we can actually talk about the merits. I, for one, would like to have a few more questions about the merits, some data to support it. But like you, I think that I think our fire department is a terrific asset of this town. It's just that the timing of this has been shown by our public comments to be inappropriate. Furthermore, it's even been a little bit difficult. The rush to take this on has been seen in the fact that when I went to try to see what the motion was that we were talking about, when I went to the town clerk's office, the motion wasn't on file. We know that all motions of boards and commissions have to go on file within a few days. That's a requirement. They have to be on file in our town clerk's office. On October 10th, which was about 2 months after after the motion had been made, it was not on file at the town clerk's office. I was asked to go to the fire department, which I did, and I got the motion.
Are you talking about the Board of Selectmen motion?
I'm talking about the motion that was done by the fire commission.
Fire Commission, okay.
Yes, because I wanted to see, I wanted to see what the public record was on it. And in fact, there is a small difference in what their motion was, what the fire commission was, and what we have proposed in front of us. Their motion reads, for 2 or more years of service at the state maximum per Connecticut general statutes, as it may be amended from time to time. So that's very different than ours, which reads something like what the current state is. I think ours is better. I think this one is a better statement. It says, for 2 or more years of service abated by $2,000. That's what we are supposedly voting on, which is not actually the actual motion that the fire commission did. And part of this is because when you rush things to get them done prior to deadlines that are pretty arbitrary and don't really affect whether or not the firemen get a significant rebate on their taxes, things get missed. Things don't happen the right way. I was very surprised because the secretary to this commission is our own town clerk. And the town clerk was there when this motion was made, and it didn't get into the files over at the town clerk's office. So I think it would be very prudent for us to take the right kind of action and tell this town that we think this is an important issue, but it's not the right time to consider it, because I think it just is improper. The impropriety of considering it now is what I'm asking for the motion to be tabled for.
Okay, so the motion is to table, and it has been seconded. So I will call the question. All in favor of tabling the motion? All opposed?
No, right.
Okay, thank you. So now, the next step is to motion, okay, yeah, okay. All right, so I will make,
Disapprove.
okay.
Or discuss.
Or discuss, yeah, make a motion to discuss it.
I mean,
I might say
any
that-
motion can be discussed.
Wasn't there a lot of discussion about this at the ordinance committee meeting with you and Sheila over there, and then the last
Yeah,
meeting in September?
I
We
would
discussed
like
it.
to just share another
Sure.
perspective, because we did have time. One of the things we discussed at the ordinance commission was we did not want to leave a hangover of work for an incoming board of selectmen. So there's been some discussion tonight that we should push this out to January. There's a lot of things on the plate of the people who are going to take these seats in January. And I know from my own experience taking on the ordinance commission, they left some important issues from the last ordinance commission that ended up at our ordinance commission. And we hadn't heard the evidence. We hadn't had the prior discussion. So there was discussion at the ordinance committee that we didn't want to have a hangover of issues. And in August, we did say, we appear to have enough time to do this. We would bring it to the September Board of Selectmen meeting, have a discussion there where questions could have been asked, public could have heard about it as well because it was on our agenda. Then we would potentially approve a motion to have this public hearing tonight, where we would also have an opportunity for people to hear. So I do feel that we've done due diligence in an appropriate, unrushed fashion. Now, the second thing I want to say is, I haven't heard anyone say that at a point in time in the future, they're against this. I would just make the statement that we should be efficient in disposing of the work in front of the Board of Selectmen in a proper, unrushed fashion. That's what I believe this is. I don't think that giving it more time changes the outcome. So I'm in favor of going forward tonight. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this notion that this becomes permanent, or that we made a mistake or dropped the ball when we said we're not pegging it to increases in the future. We did specifically talk about the specific number that was published in the public notice, that 2,000, not floating it in the future, for precisely the reason we heard, which was, is this going to become permanent? Is it going to increase permanently? I think I understand that ordinance can be amended at any time. So the next Board of Selectmen that comes in, if they decide this was rushed, we don't want this, we'll go through the public hearing process, give the public the opportunity to come in, we'll reconsider it, we can change it, we could delete it. Whatever that Board of Selectmen wants to do. I think this Board of Selectmen should act tonight. That's all I'll say.
I was at the ordinance, I am on the ordinance committee, I was at that meeting. I do not see in those minutes, I haven't seen the minutes because we haven't met again to approve them. I don't remember any significant discussion about no hangover, so I will dispute that.
Okay.
However, I do think that we should have these kinds of deliberations at this table, which we have almost never had. And we've almost never had, because the agenda is completely out of the control of people who would like to have those discussions. So when they come up, usually it's something like, we're gonna have a new fire commissioner, and I get a notice on Friday that maybe you want to put somebody forward for fire commissioner next Wednesday. And frequently, I don't know what's gonna be, I never really know what's gonna be on the agenda until at the earliest, the Friday before. So I think you're stretching the point when you say that we're getting open debate. I would have liked to have had more of an opportunity to see members of the fire commission who voted on this motion come to the last meeting when we put it forward. All we had here was the chief, the fire chief was here, made a very good presentation, but I wasn't able to ask any member of that fire commission, what was the data that you were acting on? Why is this a specific thing? I would have liked to have some concrete answers to that because we are making a decision that does affect this town, and there are some minor budget implications. The mere fact that the Democratic town chairman has come here and offered an endorsement for a bill that's an ordinance that's in front of us is despicable. And it is, I think, absolutely, I think it is beyond, it certainly is beyond what I would consider my moral compass to vote on something that has implications for a number of voters in this town coming to November 7th, to say to them, here's some money, go vote for me. Because that's what we're doing. And
That's your opinion.
it
of
is
what
my
we're
opinion,
doing.
yes.
Let's clarify.
it is my opinion.
Okay.
And I think it's a widely held opinion because I see it happen a lot in politics. I don't think this should be a political issue. I think this should be an issue that is considered outside of the endorsement of the Democratic town chairman, and which makes it very political. I think it should be considered on its merits by the next board, not by us. Sheila, you have shot down the Historical Society when we had plenty of money that we could have committed to it.
I
for
disagree with your characterization. I would not do that.
I think we're going off
That's
case now.
fine, but
I think this
but
has
there
to
have been
stop.
there have been certain allegations here
Okay.
that I think I can address.
Okay, this
And
really has to
As a member
stop.
of this body, I will simply say that for purposes of, for strictly mechanical purposes, having nothing to do with the merits of this issue, I will be abstaining from this vote when it is taken.
Okay, thank you.
And for the record, I'm going to be voting tonight on the merits of what is in front of us. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
This was presented to the board by the fire commission. It wasn't a board thing to do. It wasn't a political thing. The fire commission came to us and said, this is something that we think is appropriate at this time. And it was months ago that this happened. So that's all I want.
Can I ask Sean, is there going to be any difference whatsoever if this is passed in January?
Well, I think what we did is.
You got to come up to the mic.
Just to put a timeline on this, one, we don't want this to be a political issue whatsoever, but we brought this, the fire department brought it to the commission to get the commission to endorse this idea to increase the tax abatement and make some other language changes within the abatement. We got their blessing and we came here, so it's really the fire department coming here asking, or the ordinance committee asking for the ordinance change, because we did have some issues with the language in it, on top of the cost that we seem to be talking about now, the 2,000. That's the state recommended. So when we did it back in 2018, the cost was $1,000 for abatement. In 2019, it went up to $1,500, and in 2020, 2021, it went to $2,000. So we're following what the state recommended allotment is for volunteer firefighters. So we didn't just pull a number out of our pocket here and relay it onto you. We based it on the state ordinance, which we talked about in the ordinance committee when I brought the ordinance to you. The commission just did.
What is our maximum that we're going from, Sean?
We're going from a $750 abatement to a
$2,000.
$2,000 abatement.
So, but we've never been at the maximum.
We haven't, but we also, when we talked about it at this board and everything else, we also didn't live through COVID, and we didn't have to go through any of those hoops. To retain people nowadays with everything going on, and especially during COVID, it was really, really hard to do. This is more of a incentive to get more people to join and keep people joining, because like I told you in the ordinance committee, we have a tough enough time where when you first join the fire department, you're basically giving up every Tuesday night. On top of that, you also have to go through firefighter 1, which is roughly 180 to 200 hours of class. Then you have in-house training to do within our organization, and then you have all these other things. So at
And
that
you
point,
adequately described
at
that
that
the last
point,
time.
it is our goal to keep a strong volunteer fire department going, and this is how we decided to do it.
So my question was whether it would make any difference whether it was now or January.
I think it does make a difference. The sooner the better, because we're looking to bring people in. We're not looking to push people away. We're looking to bring people in and keep them, because all these standards have changed, and we're asking people. 20 years ago, things were a lot different. 2018, things were a lot different. We lived through COVID. Different things have changed, so we're asking people for a lot more time. That's why we believe the earlier and the quicker we can get this done, the better we are, Woodbridge, to have a strong volunteer fire department. So yes, I believe.
Is December normally a time when we're recruiting firefighters?
We recruit all year long. So actually, December is a good month, and I'll tell you why. Because the firehouse is open for Santa at the firehouse, so we have a lot of people come through Santa at the firehouse, and we actually hand out 2 or 3 applications some years, and we actually get people out of that. The other good thing about doing it now is we also have Truck or Treat coming up, which is coming up October 31st. So when we have 4,000 people at the firehouse and people like it and they want to join the organization, they want to be a part of it, it draws them in. That, I think, right there is a carrot, and it gives us the opportunity to say, hey, listen, you're joining us. It's a huge time commitment. There's no doubt about it, 2 o'clock in the morning, whatever. But on the same token, we're also giving you a caveat of a $2,000 abatement. Now, when you read the state statute, right, the state statute is everybody that's a volunteer firefighter is eligible for it as long as they meet their criteria, which is so minimal. Our criteria is a lot higher. So we're looking for 25% of fire calls for these guys to get up and go to. So on an average year, let's say we're running 480, 500 calls a year, depending on what we are. There's some years when we had storms where we ran over 600, 650 calls a year. So it is a huge time commitment. Now, when we look at the calls, we're saying, well, okay, it's a call. But some of these calls can go on 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. It's not just instant. So we're looking for a lot of time commitment to actually go to the emergency, on top of a huge time commitment for training and other things that need to happen. But to your question about, is this a good time or could it wait? Would be a perfect time for us, because we're going to have 3,000 or 4,000 people, hopefully, again, at the firehouse for Truck or Treat, and we have Santa at the firehouse. So these are our big things that we're doing at the building that we help promote to get new blood into the department.
I respect your position on this, but I just want to point out legally 2 things. We've already spent money on a legal ad, which is not inexpensive. When we have to do legal ads, it costs the town money, number 1. Number 2, I haven't heard anybody say they're against this kind of an increase. What's the difference if you do it now or you do it in January? You lose the money on the ad, you don't have to do a new ad. Everybody's in favor of it's going to happen in January. We're talking about a difference of a couple months, which is the cost of a ham sandwich. These guys are working for free. They're doing everybody agrees they do a tremendous service for the town. Why not give them a reward now as opposed to wait in January?
David, you also
It's not,
Oh,
I just want to
sorry.
clear that,
Go
it's
ahead.
not a reward. It's more of an incentive
I understand
to get
that,
people
Sean. I'm in
to
sympathy
show up here.
exactly with that. I
Yeah.
was just asking what the difference would be.
Right. So
between now
it is. So if
and-
this was
and as is often the case, Jerry, I could agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong.
Okay. Karen Kravitz, the Fire Commission Chair, has asked to speak also. Under public comment.
Karen Baldwin Kravitz, 61 Forest Glen, Chair of the Fire Commission. I just want to reiterate and emphasize, I think it's an oversimplification to say that just because their tax benefit would come on July 1st, that it doesn't matter when we do it. We're talking about people making decisions about whether they're going to join the fire department and when they're going to stay with the fire department. And this is what this is. It's an incentive to join the fire department. It's an incentive to stay in the fire department. So they could make those decisions at any time. So I think to just say because their tax bill's going to be a tiny bit less on July 1st is an oversimplification.
Thank you. I'd just like to make a statement that I will be voting for this tonight. I don't think we should delay it. I don't think you think it's a political issue because someone spoke politically. People are entitled to say what they want. I think it's just the right thing to do, and that's it. So, anyone else want to talk? Paul or Joe? Okay. Anything else, David? Oh, okay. So with that, I will make a motion that we consider the proposed amendments of Article 9, tax abatement for the fire department personnel as proposed in the new ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and all
I abstain.
opposed, and you will abstain. So
I'm
it's
abstaining.
5-0-1. Okay, thank you. All right, we still have one more to do. Thank you, everyone who spoke on that. Lastly, we're going to consider repealing Article 1, the Country Club Enterprise Fund of Chapter 42 funds. And I think Tony or Sheila can describe what this is and why we need to, or we propose to appeal it.
Sure, I'd be happy to. We
Sorry,
discovered.
repeal, not appeal.
Yeah.
Repeal, sorry.
We discovered that this exists still and had not been previously repealed when everything connected to it was taken out of our town budget, taken out of our ordinance because we had a commission. And this is just an errant piece that's left here. So we thought it would be, again, prudent in the timing that we have left in the ordinance committee to go ahead and take care of this. Hopefully it is not a controversial move.
Thank you. Does the public have any comments on this ordinance change? Okay, hearing none. Has the clerk received any written or phone calls regarding this as of 3 p.m. today? She has not. Okay. If there are no further comments, I consider this public hearing closed. Oh, no, we haven't voted. We got to vote on this one. Sorry, I'm trying to close it too soon. Always rushing along the agenda here. So with that, I will motion that we repeal Article 1, Country Club Enterprise Fund of Chapter 42 funds in the Ordinance Committee. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. David? You didn't, no, that David, he said he's sitting there, he didn't.
Waiting for the no.
Okay, all in favor, we have 5. Any opposed? 1. Okay, so that's 5-1, thank you. And I think that completes our agenda for the evening. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry, we forgot about that. We have other public comments, regular ones. So the hearing is now closed. Okay, thank you. Are there any other public comments not related to the hearing, public hearing? Okay, going once, going twice, all done? Okay, thank you. Now I will entertain a motion to adjourn from the board.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Non-debatable, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you for